This is the voice of freedom. We are not one voice. We are many. We are your voice. But we can only be effective if you use your voice. Your voice. This is the voice of freedom. We will not hide from the truth. We will ask the hard questions until we are sure we have the truth. Welcome to the voice of freedom, where your voice will never be silenced.
Well, g'day, Angela. It looks like it's just you and me at the moment, baby. Woohoo! What are you doing, stalking me? Oh, no, look, there's a few more have called in. Hello, Paul, Kath, Nari, Mason's in there. Mason! Damien, g'day. Hello, Jane. Lovely to have you all here. What a great family we are developing here at the Voice of Freedom and, of course, in the freedom movement generally. You might ask who the freedom movement is. That's probably a relevant question, and there's been some news all around this week about who some people think they are and where they are in the whole big scheme of things and whatnot. I'm not going to touch on any of that, but I dare say watch this space is something that's come to mind is the best way of saying watch that. G'day, Pineapple. Hello, Maria. Lovely to see you. Adelaide. Hey, now, speaking of Adelaide, that's in South Australia. Cherie will no doubt tell me to get into this right away. We're coming to South Australia. Apparently there's a few places in South Australia, including Manning, who are having their first meeting coming up on the 12th, I think it is, at the community hall in Manning or the community club in Manning. So if you're in that part of the world in South Australia, get along and join my place because that's where the meeting's going to happen. And there'll be a few people there, including one I know, Vince, worth catching up with. So go and catch up in Manning on the 12th. I'm pretty sure it is. I've got a flyer around here somewhere. I just haven't sucked it into the right show. So I'm going to have to do that again. Give me a moment. So, yeah, Manning and that area of South Australia, get a hold of it. And in Mount Gambier, I've got a lot of people in Mount Gambier who are saying, come to Mount Gambier, it's all great. Is Manning the weed capital of Oz? Have I missed something here, Farlap? Have I missed something here, Vince? Manning, anyway. That'll be a hell of a my place if that's the case. That's all I've got to say. Because actually, it's interesting what's getting legalized. We'll get into that very, very shortly. Hello, Cassios. And hi, Jane. Salty's back. And Farlap. Yeah, Adelaide. So if you want us to come and do a show in your part of the world, all we need is a venue. Now, the easiest way I'm telling people to go and find a venue is not to go out and hire one. Don't do that. Go to a club or a pub that doesn't do much meal trade on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, that kind of thing where they're slow. Tell them you might have a few people who come in and have dinner if we can get a showroom or something, a function room to set up in and have a meeting at from, 7:30. And we'll arrange bookings through them so people can book seats for dinner, come in and have a meal with us beforehand, and then we'll go and do the show at 7:30. So that's usually the way I find is easiest to get a venue, because they've already got the staff on board. They're already there. They're not doing much. And if they do a slow meal trade on Monday or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, they'll probably do pretty well on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, I suspect. But you can always try them. And you never know. If you've got, 100 people who are going to book in for dinner and they all have a meal and buy a drink, that's a reasonably good night for the pub that they weren't expecting on a quiet night. So just a thought, if that's the way you're wondering about how to get a venue, I wouldn't worry about going and hiring one. At the end of the day, set a tent up, we'll come and stand under that. But it's a bit more comfortable if it's air conditioned, particularly at this part of the world at this time of the year. And it might be nicer if we had some seats to sit on because people's legs are not what they used to was. Speaking of temperatures, my God, it has been so bloody awful in Brisbane today. Absolutely atrocious. My daughter fainted or nearly fainted there at one stage, so we had to cool her down dramatically. Found a great reason. Remember those push-up icy pole things, or Zupa Dupas or something they're called? I'd forgotten we had some in the freezer. Thankfully we did. Grabbed them out, wrapped them around her neck, cooled her neck down. So if you ever have that kind of thing and you're worried about how to cool yourself down, somebody says, oh, just give me a cold compress on the forehead or something, don't. Cool both sides of the neck, because you've got all the blood going into your brain, all the blood coming out of your brain. And the arteries on both sides, one's in, one's out. Get a Zupa Duper on each side of your neck and hold them there. and keep them there as long as you can, and you'll find you will cool down very, very quickly, because your blood is going to cool down as it passes by the super duper. I can tell you it works, because it worked brilliantly enough today to recover Laura enough so that she could walk, and we got her into a cold shower, and well, as cold as you can get around here, because in Brisbane at the moment the hot water's hot and the cold water's hotter, unless you have your pipes well buried. So it's a bit like that in some other places. In Vic, I believe, bloody cold today, so I heard, and Canberra, I think, was 18 degrees. So I'm heading to Canberra, leaving this weekend, and we'll be in Canberra for the AMPS conference, which is coming up on Tuesday evening. And you will see it live here, streamed live on the Voice of Freedom, only on the, I beg your pardon, only on the Rumble channel. AMPS are banned on everything else. So that's the Australian Medical Professionals Against the Spicy Dart and other things. I believe Senator Malcolm Roberts, Senator Rennick, and Senator Alex Antic will be speaking at this event, along with some people who've had to give up their jobs, professionals who've had to give up their jobs for refusing the spicy dart. So we're very grateful at the Voice of Freedom to have been asked to stream this, and you will only see it on our Rumble platform. I dare say I will make every endeavour to make it available to an AMPS platform, but they don't have a streaming platform of their own outside of Facebook. So it might also be on their Facebook page, but certainly live, you will only see it from 7 o'clock next Tuesday night. It'll begin. So mark that one in your books. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. As we know, Malcolm Roberts has been speaking up pretty loudly against the jab and associated other things recently. So let's see how he goes with that, and who knows, we might get an opportunity for a chat afterwards or pre the event, and might get a chance to ask him a few other questions. I do notice there are things that that all those senators, while sounding great on this particular point, they are very quiet on other issues. And without getting myself into too much trouble on the tube, let me count to the number 28 for you, and I think the number's much higher, 28, and more particularly what's going on in the Northern Territory at the moment, what's happening with our children being stolen from us and abused in such horrendous ways. So I'm not sure what they're saying on that, certainly publicly or much less privately, and I don't want to put them in an uncomfortable position, but be very keen to learn where they stand on this issue going forward, even if they don't believe there are 28 restricted, you know what I'm saying, even if they don't believe that, going forward there are bigger issues surrounding our children and what's happening to our children. There are 38,000 Australian children go missing every year. Quite many, dare I say, the vast majority of them come from our black communities. There's a lot of interesting talk going on about the black communities at the moment. And because there are, I've been advised, 330 of them at least, maybe 339 to be more accurate. And I'm not sure of that number. I'm not even sure anybody within the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander group know the actual number. It's very difficult to get unity from those groups because they have been fed by the government for so long. And they've been infiltrated by the government for so long. And I'm talking here about the groups that hand out the money, the Aboriginal corporations that are working to hand out the money. They are also allegedly working in league with police, particularly in the Northern Territory, and government allegedly in the Northern Territory. They are working with child support agencies and whatnot to abduct children that just simply go missing out of the system. These children ranging in age from 2 up to, I believe, 14 or 15. I don't know the veracity of those charges. I don't know of the authenticity of any allegations presented against any of those people involved. I'm sure, though, it is very worth investigating. And none of our politicians seem to want to talk about that. I don't know how we can move forward. You know, we're all talking about becoming this wonderful, inspired being and moving into fifth generation thinking or fifth dimensional thinking and becoming whole with ourselves and working as one for humanity. I can tell you, we are not going to get there until we fix this problem with our children going missing, being raped and murdered, and being swept under the carpet. We just can't reach that next level of humanity's development until we fix that bit. We have to find out the truth about that. We have to find the perpetrators, if indeed there are those perpetrators, and I suspect there are. I suspect there are many of them. I've been watching a lot of videos today, nurses in the Northern Territory speaking out. They're having little girls present to them with sexually transmitted diseases. The government's word is saying, oh, that's because they've been wearing dirty underwear. They caught whatever they caught from wearing underwear. Now, I find that absolutely abhorrent for a government to even think that its population is so stupid to believe such bullshit. So, yeah, check Gates's bags on the way out, Paul. You're right about that. I wonder what he had stowed in the private jet stowage. Because I believe they have certain compartments in those jets, coffin-like compartments in those jets where they secrete whatever they need to secrete. So anyway, that's what we need to get onto, kids. We cannot move forward in humanity until we figure out what's going on with our kids. Until we know the truth about why our children are going missing, why our Aboriginal children are apparently immune to any kind of protection from the authorities, to be engaged with the authorities in any way, shape or form, usually results in charges and some form of incarceration. And look, in many cases, it's due. Actions have been done. People have done things they shouldn't have done. Laws have to be upheld. Now, I understand, I don't understand it, but I know that there is tribal law that is enacted in many courts around this country. I'm not sure exactly how it works or what benefits it has. I believe in some cases there is spearing involved. Well, okay, is it working? Is whatever we, the white fellas, are doing working? Is whatever these elders are doing working? I think if you were anything aware of what's going on in Alice Springs and Darwin at the moment, but particularly Alice Springs, I think it's probably making the biggest news at the moment, you would be horrified. And please do not believe the mainstream media and the shit they're telling you. I know that John Wilson speaks very strongly, and a lot of people find him sometimes hard to listen to because he can get rather fruity in his terms. But I've seen some conversations that he's had, chat conversations with people in the Northern Territory. John's had a long history of the Northern Territory. He was actually in Alice Springs for a number of years. Now, and he was working in an area where every Aboriginal in town knew his name and was happy to be friends with him. So John has some deep contacts in the area, and through that has been able to gain the respect of a number of locals. And I've been privy to a couple of text conversations with one in particular, very concerned truck driver who drives into the remote communities and brings in supplies. He tells a horrifying story, but he also tells a reason why there is such poverty and such starvation and such problems in the camps. And in some parts, it extends down to mining operations, floods that happen, tailings ponds overflow, waters that shouldn't get into places that shouldn't. It infects the ground. It gets into the food chain, including the kangaroos, and makes them inedible or, whatever, poisons them, they die. This, has an impact on the land, a great impact on the land. And obviously these people are very close to it. These are some interesting stories coming out of there. Royalty check payments Another interesting one, because believe me, if our black brethren knew exactly what's going to happen if they get involved with this UN corporation, kiss your royalty checks goodbye. 15-minute smart cities, well, they might be a little bit longer in the outback, or they might be a little bit smaller, because you are so remote, so far away, that you might have a 7-minute smart city. And that'll mean a whole bunch of vending machines that, provided you've been a good little boy or girl, you'll be able to walk up to and beep and get your food out for the day, or your drink, or your water. Nothing else. That's what's coming. There'll be no royalty checks. There'll be no flying planes anywhere to go and fill them up, bring them back with whatever you want. That'll all be gone. All of it. You need to really understand what's coming here. Really understand it. And a lot of your people aren't telling you the truth. There are a lot of our people aren't telling the truth too. And the whole thing about this is there are no your people. There are no our people. We are we. We are us. We are one people. I'm an Indigenous Australian. I have as much right to call myself an Indigenous Australian, pardon me, as any black person in this country, any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. I have the right to call myself Indigenous, because the word means you started here, you were born here, you came from this land. The people I came from this land. The people they came from this land. The ones before that, maybe not. But there's been enough of my family's blood, and I've had two families do it, so I can impress them both ways. But there's been enough of my family's blood and everybody else's family's blood spilt on this land, fought for on this land, died for this land, to call it our land, just as much as it is your land. Because we are Indigenous as well, and that seems to be being lost in the argument. Now, there's a lot of people who want to bring the black and white sides of Australia together. I am one of them. The problem is we can't find anyone on the black side that speaks for the black side. We can find 339 individuals and their entourages that all have a different opinion, all have a different need, all have different desires, different wants. And we need to find a way to get some communication going where everybody understands that we are one. And I think Jacinta Price, Senator Jacinta Price in Canberra, is one of those voices. She is dissenting against the voice, this new Albo plan of brilliance that he's hiding the minutiae of. He says, oh, there's only 3 questions. You don't have to worry about it. It's a really simple thing and everybody's going to feel good. I'll tell you now, I'm against the voice. Apparently, there is a busload of elders coming down from the Northern Territory, Western Australia, South Australia, and New South Wales coming to Canberra. They're on their way now. Apparently, they're going to be in Bourke on the 8th of February, and then they're heading their way to Canberra. Now, apparently, they're coming to make a statement that says they don't want the voice either in Canberra because it's divisive, because it will cause more harm than it will good. And that is why Albanese and the morons of the party that he belongs to are pushing it. Well, they're not morons. They're just evil bastards who are being played from the other side of the world. They have no control. They just push these things out. But that, well, to these elders who are coming down, my question is to them, and if anybody is traveling with them or can get a message to them, translate this, please. Do you speak for the entire Aboriginal Torres Strait Island nation? The Indigenous people that we'll refer to at the moment that are dissenting from the rest of the Indigenous people here. If that is the case, great, come. Let's talk. Let's make plans. Let's build unity between us. But the voice, and I don't know enough about treaty to talk on it at this point, but I would be very careful of both of those mechanisms at this stage, because they are going to take everything from you. Of course, the QFS is coming. You're going to get everything returned to you. You're going to be very wealthy people. That's when the QFS happens, and you won't have to worry about what I've just said. But if you want to plan for the fight, just in case the QFS and millions of dollars doesn't plow into your account overnight, and all of a sudden $100 is worth $1,000, it with $1,000 of buying power, not worth $1,000, but your $100 goes to $1,000 worth of buying power today. Well, then your financial needs will be met. You won't have to live in the worst of conditions if you choose not to. You will be able to build a mansion over the top of where you live right now. Maybe you might want air conditioning, maybe you won't. I know I do at the moment, but then you get a cold, makes you sick. So I'll suffer through it. It's no biggie. It's a bit of sweat. You get used to it. This needs to be looked at. We need to find a way of reaching out to bring our Aboriginal and Torres Strait brothers and sisters together to unify with us. And I believe my place is taking some great steps towards that. So, we will learn more about that. In fact, while I'm thinking of it, I should actually send Darren Bergwerf an email, because he was in court today. And I think he's done reasonably well, let me say. I've had a bit of a chat with him. He's explained to me what happened, and he was made a very interesting offer by the judge presiding. I won't break into it what that offer was. I've sent him the invite. He's doing some other Zooms tonight, and I think being an hour behind him, he will be nearly off one of those. So hopefully he might just sneak into the room and give us a chat if that is the case. Now, let's have a bit of a glance at what you guys have been talking about for a few minutes here and try and see if I've got sweat running into my eyes. Yep, thanks, Nari. We are all Indigenous, absolutely too. Where we go one, we go all. Thank you, Michelle. Hey, Michelle, I got your note. Interesting stuff. We're going to talk Childers soon. Got to do some interesting things there. Yep, we are many. We just need to unite, Salty. Absolutely. I would agree 100%. Simon, treaty means dead entity. So be very careful if you are thinking about treaty. It will be awful. And the voice, Paul, I agree. It will be the corrupt politicians and the corrupt politics, and they'll scream and whinge and whine, but they'll get their money for it too. You've got to be careful about this. This is a way of government funneling money into the people you think are going to be working in your interest. And I can tell you that they're not. And there are some very interesting people working amongst the Northern Territory groups, OSTF being one of them, and the people associated with that. I wouldn't go near that, folks. Not in a pink fit. Not in a pink fit. All tribal leaders need to go to Canberra. Yep, I agree. Now, there's a bit of a fight going on about the embassy in Canberra. Whose embassy is it? Who has control of it? Who's allowed to go there? It's not something me, as an Indigenous Australian, knows much about, and I'm quite embarrassed about that. So trying to find two or even one person to give an unbiased version of what the fight is about is almost impossible. We need to try and figure those things out, because I'm an Indigenous Australian too. What if I want to go and stay at the tent embassy? Am I going to get bashed for turning up there? Just a question. Wouldn't like that. Not good. David, all he wants is 20 acres to set up a sanctuary and help damaged people and orphaned animals. Gee, David, you and me are talking about the same thing, and I know which part of the world you live in, so your 20 acres is going to be absolutely magnificent. Maybe if I can get 20 acres to do the same thing, because I think I've mentioned here before that I want to do the same kind of thing. Because of domestic violence and what's happened in my life with my daughter, I'm very keen to set up a support service for people who've suffered domestic violence, and particularly who stay in a relationship because of the animals that they have, fearing that the partner will take that anger out on the animals, as has been threatened and demonstrated many, many times, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'm very keen to do something. Doesn't matter if you own a mouse or a horse. I want to have a place where you can come and stay, get yourself back on your feet. Not forever. This would be an interim thing, but, you'd get the support you needed and access to the services and the community to help rebuild. Not just, where you're going to live, how you're going to live, but to help rebuild you. So that's what I want to create. And it sounds, David, like you and I have very similar issues, very similar desires. So Barbara's up for saying no to the voice. Good on you, Barbara. Have I heard from the former Psycho and Premier? No, I have not. There you go. Vince is in the house. Vince, is it the 12th for Manning? Because I've imported the slide into the wrong show and I can't bring it in without closing the show. So I'm pretty sure I said it's the 12th in Manning for My Place meeting at the community club in town there. And I'm keen to learn if Manning is the weed centre of Australia. Might have been another town. I'm not saying anything about Manning. I just saw something in the comment. It's an interesting thing to say. That's all. I would have thought in South Australia there'd be other places. But anyway, what are the Sunshine Coast Council gave themselves a pay rise today, did they, Camillo? Bloody hell. And I dare say it wasn't an insignificant one. I don't know that you'll hear about it because media companies are private, mostly, but media have been given 12 months tax-free as a benefit for pushing the spicy dart and your attendance to it immediately, if not sooner. 1 year tax-free for the whole industry. If you own a media company, now's the time to go out and spend a bit of money, pay all that tax, get it all back. All the tax, of course, that you would ordinarily be charging for your GST on every ad you sell, on everything you promote. All of that's coming back. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's why the mainstream media aren't telling us what's going on, much less allowing us to question their narrative. And that's the issue that Ben Fordham seems to be currently facing. Guru kicked the hornet's nest there. He's done a good job. And I'm looking forward to, Manham, not Manning. There you go. That's confused to my Manham. Thanks, Peggy Sue. Manham, 12. Beautiful. All good. Happy about that. Beautiful. Thank you to Angela for your sticker. I appreciate that. I saw it go through earlier. I was just talking too much and concentrating too much. Grant, I'm interested here. I'm a sovereign and reincarnated. No one can tell me I wasn't an Indigenous person in 1788. People cannot claim the pain of their forefathers like they were the only ones. History was tough under Dracos. Yes, I agree, Grant, 100%. I did this once. I walked into a Centrelink. I can't remember what it was for. I wasn't getting the doll, but I had to give them something, and I hate the fact that Anyway, the first question to her, or the first question on the form was, do you identify as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander? So I ticked the yes box. Well, when she got to that part on the paper, the look on her face was pretty interesting. She looked at the paper, she looked at me, puzzled, looked back at the paper, looked back at me, looked back at the paper, and she said, Liebold, that sounds German. And I said, yes, I'm German Aboriginal. She had to go and see a supervisor. Just saying. I had to finally admit that I wasn't an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person. But the interesting thing is, 9th of February, put it up, thanks. 9th of February, Manham Community Club. Thanks, Vince. Interestingly, if I had have wanted to stick with it, I would have been asked to answer 3 questions about my mob. Now, I knew the area I was living in. I knew the mob that lived in that area, and I could have answered those 3 questions. So, and I could have answered them correctly. So, would that have made me able to identify as Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander? I mean, we've got men with penises identifying as women, changing, in the change rooms, changing with university students and Olympic swimmers. 6'4" transgender swimmers who'd previously been on the men's team for 3 years, changing into the bathers in the same room as the other, I suppose specified gender swimmers were, making them feel pretty uncomfortable, I would have thought. That's happening too. So these things are starting to come out in public. There's starting to be a lot more reaction in America to it too. The tide is turning, and there are other things happening where the tide can turn. So the 9th of February, Mannum Community Club on your Vince. That's a My Place get together. That's the first initial meeting for My Place in Mannum. And if you are interested in coming along and joining, Vince is the man to go and see. Well, he'll be one of the people to go and see, because I saw their initial planning meeting, a big table there full of people. So great. Looking forward to being able to call into Mannum and doing a show there when we hit South Australia too. Thank you, Vince. Now, let's get on to some of what I consider to be some of the most interesting news coming out today. Big news out of Thailand and Switzerland. Switzerland is apparently refusing now to honour the contract with Pfizer. Thailand, it seems, after having some very direct advisement from a fellow that we all know and whose name I can't pronounce, a professor, have come to the realization that the spicy dart and everything about the spicy dart are fraudulent. Now, okay, we've found that out. We've got that to certain government levels too here in Australia. Nobody cares. What is the difference? In the difference, 6 weeks ago, the princess, one of the princesses of the royal family of Thailand, fell gravely ill after her third spicy dart. And I mean within hours after her third spicy dart, and she is in a coma. She wasn't found, I don't think, for a little while, because they're very concerned she had lack of oxygen to her brain for quite some time, and hence she's in this coma, and they're trying to wake her from it to see how she is going to stack up. Now, this is the royal family, folks. Now, this news and this evidence has been presented to both the Thai government, who through channels then have taken that to the Thai royal family. And I can tell you that the Thai royal family are very, very, very angry, very upset, and are now demanding the Thai government will renege or tear up the Pfizer contracts. And they are encouraging their citizens to take action against Pfizer, because every one of these jabs has not been tested as it should have been. You might remember back in 2020, a lot of these companies were given the ability to roll out the jab and consecutively run the safety trials. Rather than run the safety trials beforehand, before the big rollout, which they hadn't done, they were allowed to run those trials as the jab was being rolled out. It turns out none of them did those tests. None of the companies did those tests, and certainly not BioNTech and Pfizer. Now, that's illegal. That is highly illegal, and definitely grounds to break the multi-billion-dollar contract that the Thai government had with these poisonous bastards. And the government is now actively encouraging its people to take suit against them for the damages incurred to the people, to their family members, the losses, family members dying suddenly, family members incapacitated for life, given all sorts of horrendous horrendous issues. It sounds a lot like the Thai princess has got a very severe heart issue, myocarditis or pericarditis, I suspect, but it seems that she's had a very significant heart attack and wasn't found for a little while by the sound of it, because they are worried about the oxygen levels to her head. So this is going to break big, folks. This is going to break really big. Mainstream media probably won't be telling you about it, but this affects every country in the world. if the Thai government come out and file suit against BioNTech and Pfizer and show the proof they have that none of the safety checks were done, not on animals, not on people, none. And this is admitted in BioNTech documentation, which I have, and I haven't sucked it into here, but I do have that BioNTech information to the Australian government, supplied in January 2021, saying no safety tests were conducted. Paraphrasing. I'll get it out and show you in the next show. But yes, that allows the Australian government to break the contract that it signed because the contract is fraudulent. The company who initiated the contract have not stood up to the conditions in it. And that's a problem. So the government has an out now that's not going to cost billions of dollars. It will cost us billions and billions of dollars because we're signed up for the same deal. We're signed up for something like $183 billion worth of this shit. You know, they just keep forcing it on you. That's injections 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 coming our way. And trust me, by the time I reckon we get to 6, they'll be force jabbing whoever the fuck they want. So check into that. That's some big news. The Thai princess and the information now broadly available and certainly been available to our TGA and our government since January 2021. I've got the letter to the federal government from BioNTech saying they haven't done any safety testing. What are our government doing? Are you talking to your local member? Are you emailing him? Are you saying, what the? Because do that. The more of us that email those bastards every day makes it harder for them to avoid it in Parliament when they eventually go to work. So do that. Start asking why Australia is still signed up to a fraudulent contract with a company that was meant to run tests on this shit they forced on us in conjunction with the rollout, but they never did it. And the rollout was contingent upon them doing it. Part of the contract. They never did a test. And they admit it. Ask your local member why he is still supporting this madness. Explain to him the Thai government, the Swiss government are leading the way. The Australian government cannot afford, the Australian people cannot afford for the Australian government to be left behind in this. And that piece of shit Albanese is just gloating, I dare say, because, well, he's just working for the man after all. And unfortunately, the man is not an Australian, not in any way, shape, or friggin' form. Now, I do want to show you an interesting page that has come to my attention only late this afternoon. Get a load of this. This is a change to the classification for psilocybin and MDMA to enable prescribing by an authorized psychiatrist. So from July 1st this year, medicines containing the psychedelic substances psilocybin, which is mushrooms, and MDMA, which is 3,4-methylene methamphetamine, I'll get it all out eventually, can be prescribed by specifically authorized psychiatrists for the treatment of certain mental health conditions. The TGA will permit the prescribing of MDMA for the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder and psilocybin for the treatment of resistant depression. Now, these are the only conditions where there is currently sufficient evidence for potential benefits in certain patients. Now, if this is news to you folks, if this is something you aren't aware of, ever heard of psilocybin? We've all heard of MDMA. Our kids have been busted with it. The police have been raiding places for it for years since it's come on the scene. Now, all of a sudden, the federal government is saying, okay, you can have as many mushies as you like and you can swallow the MDMA pills. I'm not saying that's what they're doing. They're obviously putting restraints on it, authorized psychiatrists only, and only in the severest of cases. There is a phenomenal amount of evidence to suggest that psilocybin aids with depression in ways I find too hard to articulate right now. I do know people who've had psilocybin, and this isn't one of those 60s kind of trips kind of things, right? Don't think of psilocybin as, you take a mushroom and you float around for 24 hours and you have really wild dreams, man. That's not how this is prescribed or used. My understanding is that you take a very measured amount of the mushroom, and it's called microdosing. And you have your dose on one day, and you'll get, I think it's maybe 3 days, 2.5 days of a certain, well, I don't know. These are you're not tripping, you're not off your nut, you're not anything. It just takes away the depression, takes away anxiety, or eases significantly anxiety. And there have been a lot of tests going on about MDMA with PTSD, particularly severe PTSD. I believe a lot of this study was initiated from our soldiers returning from overseas, who had suffered significant events in their lives and were suffering PTSD from it, obviously quite severe PTSD, and they had turned to drugs of various kinds. And through the course of their treatments or their regular psychological evaluations, they volunteered that they had taken MDMA and that had seemed to ease their PTSD issues. So I believe that's where the study began. So I dare say our kids will still be busted for having it on the streets. The police will still come kicking in your door if you've got a bag of it and you sell them at $50 a pill or whatever you sell them for. But if you are in need, if you suffer from depression, if you suffer from anxiety, if you suffer from PTSD, psilocybin and MDMA might make a huge difference in your life. And now that the classification has been changed, psilocybin and MDMA will be available through authorized psychologists. I am sure that news is going to help a lot of people. Can you take a whole heap of psilocybin and get off your tree? I suspect if you ate a field of mushrooms, or maybe even, I don't know. We'll find somebody to talk about it, hey? Because I think it's a fairly interesting. Thing, and it's natural. They come naturally to us. I do like what Mike is saying here. No psychiatrist, no depression. Yes, there is a very large school of thought that says the professional mental health is more geared to pharmacology fixes than actually fixing people. Look, I don't know. My daughter hasn't seen a psychiatrist, but she has seen a clinical psychologist, and it's changed. It's helped her. It's helped her a lot. Not as much as you lot, but it certainly helped her, particularly in the early days. And they helped me understand what was going on with her in those days a great deal. So I think the fact that neither she nor I are much into the pill popping side of things, she and I would have always been resistant to any kind of ongoing treatment that meant she was going to be essentially zombified for the rest of her life. And so, yeah, I think that meant that she had to work personally on herself a lot more. But then we've come through the other side. Well, maybe not all the way through the other side, but we've come a hell of a long way. And for the most part, done without any aid of volumes of pills. I mean, there are some. Well, there's one, I think. But and it helps. It certainly helps. I have a lot of friends on the same pill. But I also have another friend who's just weaned herself off it after over 10 years from memory. Didn't want to be on it anymore, and she's going along great guns. So imagine what you can do. Having a bit of a glance down here, it's natural, but it's still poison. I'm gathering we're talking about the mushrooms there. I don't know. Maybe that's why they say microdosing. You can also microdose. Well, so somebody tried telling me once you can microdose snake venom. Now, why you would want to sure about, but anyway, do not try that at home. That is not something I would advise anybody to go and do. Yes, I would say you still got to confront whatever the issues are, but look, I think at the moment, if they're going to open up at least the natural channels, I think that's a great thing. I know I've never had MDMA in my life. Don't know what it does, but if it makes any benefit at all to our returned servicemen who suffer from PTSD in terrible ways, then I'm all for it. Give it a go. So that's going to be, well, another tick in Big Pharma's pocket, I dare say. At least the pills you'll get will be very good. I dare say a market will open up for the people who can get access to those pills and don't feel they need to take the whole packet and probably sell a bit. So I'd be careful about that, a market emerging if I was anywhere. But yeah, Canada's what? Canada's going to allow fentanyl use. We're likely to hear a whole lot less from Canadians then. They'll be killing themselves left and right with that horrible shit. My God. What have you got here, Alan? Stayed at an embassy last year. One white fella I took them $800 worth of food out of my pension. Uncle Albert, they don't like the red ensign. Oh, well, that's pretty cool, Alan. Great. So it is possible. I like that. And they weren't drinking. I like that even more. Anyone getting glitches? Say hello to ASIO. Oh, well, hello, ASIO. It's probably ASIS, not ASIO, if I'm honest. Or there is another nameless, faceless agency in the country who I won't name because that'll definitely attract some attention. So hello to them too. Look, we're not doing anything illegal here. We're trying to educate people, and I know there's a lot of you that don't like that, but that's all we're doing. And the movement's coming. If you want to help us, you would be gratefully, warmly welcomed. However, you better come with the truth. You better come with honesty. And I don't even know that's going to be enough to save you because there's a lot of ropes. A lot of ropes. And a lot of people need those ropes. Yeah. A lot of people. Big list came out the other day too. There is a call for Nuremberg 2.0 and a list of names started with Klaus Schwab, but we have a couple of notable names from our region. Dan Andrews rates a mention. I think Anastasia Pluckaduck from Queensland, which is just a cesspit. I mean, my God, they are just a cesspit. The Queensland government, absolutely atrocious. And be careful if you're going anywhere where the Premier's going. She takes phone blockers with her now, so you won't get any phone service anywhere around her. Making it hard for streamers to go up and ask her questions. Just saying. Arsenic in the animal racing game. Yeah, look, I'm keen to go and get this. I'm rearranging my room, so I can't find my little bits that I got out of the water, which we're going to do a little show on coming up. I want to get what those magnetic particles are analyzed. I want to know what they are. I suspect that there is a lot of heavy metal involved, and I suspect there is a lot of nanoparticles, a lot of carbon, a lot of, weird shit. So we're going to try and get that completely analysed, if at all possible. If you know someone who's good with that sort of thing, I did get a message from somebody who said they had a microscope and a spinner or a centrifuge, but I'm not sure if they had the skills to use it. That's the other thing. Grant, what are you saying here? QFS started November 22, is running parallel with the Swift Fiat system, and Launder's already been caught. Yep, biggest one was announced yesterday. Who was that? I know that they're cleaning up stock brokerages and and those sorts of companies working in and around the market. They're also knocking down, fraudulent, or at least not on the team crypto companies. So yeah, there's a lot of cleaning up going on. Are we going to see? Well, what evidence do we see in public? I think you're right. They've got to clean the financial system up totally first. Yes, I do believe that the QFS has been running in parallel with our fiat system now since November last year. It's been running at least 12 months before that in the background, ironing out any bugs and all that sort of thing. So it's, very interesting stuff. I can't and won't tell you much about what I did for a certain portion of my morning this morning, but I was very lucky to be sat in a room of developers who were working on something to do with the QFS. I got to learn a whole heap of new terms I've got to understand terminology for, but I did get some very interesting information that leads me to have great faith in what is being developed. And you'll be very pleased to know that I believe that particular development squad is being, if not led by, then certainly a large part of it is done by an Australian. So you should be very proud, Australia. I can't tell you anything about it because I don't really understand it. And even if I did understand it, I wouldn't be allowed to tell you anything about it yet. So I was just given a look to clarify in my mind what were some of the terms that I used last night. And those terms were shown to me in the system, like how it works. So now I have much better, not saying I have an understanding, but I have a much better appreciation of it. And I continue to voraciously lap up this information because I really believe, folks, it will be the way that we transact in the future. And it could be very near future. It might be another year away, but if it comes on you in a year and you don't know anything about it, then it's going to be a shock. If it doesn't come on you in a year, you can come back and ask me, why isn't it here? And I'll say, well, I don't know. But it's better to be prepared. Hey, let's do the old Boy Scout motto. I hesitate to mention the Boy Scouts. But yeah, let's be a little bit prepared. Let's learn as much as we can about crypto and how the system works, because the computer or the TV that you're watching me on now is an asset of yours. You own it. Now that, as my understanding, can be traded. To be traded, it needs to be wrapped in something. Let's call that a cryptocurrency coin, for instance. So you might have a coin for your laptop and a coin for your TV. You'll have a coin for your house, a coin for your car, a coin for your boat and your trailer. Everyone will have an individual coin. And if you decide you want to sell that for whatever the market value is at the time, that coin or that asset wrapped in, let's call it the coin, is traded directly to the person you're working with. And the money that they are paying comes directly wrapped in a coin, guaranteed by precious metals, direct to your account. That's my understanding of how transactions will work. Everything you own will have a value, and if you want to sell it, you'll need to wrap it in a transactable form. Now, to get that from where you are to where it needs to be, it has to pass through a number of gateways, for the want of a better term. It has to pass through bridges or go over bridges to bridge between systems. And what I saw today was, how those bridges are created. It's a very, very, very deep computer learning thing. And certainly I don't claim that I've got any idea about just about everything that I saw there today. But because I had somebody who was educating me along the way, they explained certain bits to me when I got curious. And I hope that will continue, because it is a very, very important thing we learn. And as I say, I'm trying to bring myself up to speed. So when I eventually can get some leaders in this field to come and talk to us, I don't ask them completely naive and stupid questions. So hopefully I can help you bring up your learning a little bit on this QFS system and Nasara Jasara, which is something I also believe in. I do believe Nasara Jasara is coming. Where is all this wealth going to come from? I hear people say. I haven't gone down yet, but maybe there's somebody in here who's saying it. Where is all this supposed wealth going to be? Hang on, let me start that. I'll come back to that question, Marie. Actually, no, I'll go to that question straight away. How do I think it might work in a small retail business? So, very good question. I imagine for daily things, bread, milk, eggs, the things you would normally go to a supermarket for, all that kind of thing, they would have a value. Obviously, you've got to pay a price for them. It changes the whole nature of the way of shopping, because your supermarket may not be a supermarket. You might shop and it might all just get delivered online. It would be the cheapest, easiest, safest way to do it. But if you wanted to go and have the experience, then I'm sure somewhere in that transaction there would be extra costs passed on to you to cover the rent of the building, the lighting, the staffing, and the stocking, the cleaning and the restocking, all those sorts of things. So you would then come up with a total like you do once it's all passed through the register, and through your wallet you would have a card that would have X amount of coin upon it that is your cash, if you like, and you trade it just like you would with if you like, an ATM card today, but it works through this secure quantum system, and your money is transferred directly to theirs using the coin or the wrap, and it was to whatever value your shopping would be. So I think that would work the same in a small business, any which way you work through it. I could be wrong, and I will ask the question just to make sure that I'm on the right field, on the right track there. What are you saying here, Chris? I'd love to go on a field trip like that for your show. I don't know which field trip we're talking about. Chris. Oh, look. Now, Chris, I've had a few emails this week. Chris is sitting in the chat. I've had a chat with Chris. It's all good. I've had a few emails this week from concerned Victorians and, anybody outside of Queensland, that last week when I had Chris on, there was a weapon in the picture. Some called it a pistol. Some called it a silencer. Some called it for what it was, a gel gun, a gel blaster. Now, in Queensland, gel blasters are frowned upon by the law, but legal. You're allowed to own a gel blaster, and there are a lot of restrictions on how you can travel with a gel blaster, and how you've got to keep it secure or whatever you've got to do with them. But having it in your lounge room isn't one of those. So that's what it was. It was a gel blaster. People don't get too upset. Chris likes to go out and fling bits of silicone around. It's all good. He's not a bad man. It's all fine. And yes, we are lucky. Gel blasters are the only place, I think, I don't think New South Wales allows them, and I can't imagine Victoria would either. Silver Fox, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, the Thais do adore their royal family, and the king's wife, or the king's daughter, the princess, is relatively young. I think she's 44. So the royal family are, it's been stated, going to sue Pfizer, and they are encouraging all the people that have been impacted in Thailand to do the same. So that's big news, folks. That is big, big news. An honesty stall. Yeah. Okay. So here is where digital currency falls down. Everything is tracked. The blockchain is a ledger, if you like. So let's assume, and I'm assuming this, so let's assume that the blockchain starts when we all become aware of it, And everything we now own becomes our asset. This computer I'm talking to you on will be listed somewhere in the blockchain as mine, as will every other asset that you have, if it is transferable, tradable, sellable. Now, from that point on, for the rest of history, that item, that asset can be tracked. And if it, is destroyed or lost or whatever, then, the value of it disappears out of the system. So I think that's essentially how the blockchain will track every individual thing. So any car you've had, you will be able to trace the history of its ownership through the blockchain, because the blockchain will show who owned it, not the middlemen it's passed through or how many clips of the ticket has been taken on the way past, because there will be none of that. Yes, I'm sure you will still be able to sell your car and trade it at a car dealership, but car dealerships are likely to be radically different in the future as well. I think when the big turn comes, don't know that petrol cars and petrol or diesel is going to be the way of the future. I think electromagnetic propulsion, amongst other things, are going to form a large part of our future. And if you listen to Spiros, then hydrogen is going to form a big part of our future as well. As I've mentioned, Spiros, I'll tell you a little bit. I've had some communications from him, and I've had a lot of communications from people who have put in to be part of the class action. The class action was filed on the 1st of February. I have that sent through. It was filed. So everybody, yip yeah, you're in. Now, there have been a lot of inquiries about receipts for the money on the website. I believe that is an admin problem, and Spiros has got onto that. And from judging by the emails that I'm getting every day, people are receiving their receipts. If you want to go and get your money back, Aid and Abet Concepts is aidandabetconcepts@gmail.com. I'll put that in a link somewhere. Is Spiros's email address, and he's happy to return whatever monies you put in if that is what you so desire. Chris, you don't need to. Now Chris is getting all. You don't need to be. It's all good, mate. You're fine. No, you've just got to remember, Chris, that sometimes the audience don't know what a job blaster is, and they get a bit worried about you. It's all good, brother. You're fine. You'll never have the gel blaster out again, he says. Well, look, take it out, go and use it where you use it in the appropriate places, but let's not maybe wave it around on the show too much. It upsets a few people. Let me have another look here. What else is going on? Yeah, Paul, bring on the Jetsons world. So what happens to your auntie who likes to give you 50-cent pieces for Christmas? What happens to pocket money? Bit of cash for the kids to go down to the shop, buy a few lollies. What happens if you want to sell a car on the side of the road? Well, you can probably still sell your car on the side of the road. The trade is done the same way, blockchain and coin to coin, if you like. So I can't see how that impacts much at all. It's just that the transaction will be tracked at the blockchain level. So ownership can be tracked. I guess if you're a drug dealer, this isn't going to be good news. However, many drug dealers will then swap and take trade instead of Bitcoin. They will take things instead of cash or digital. So how will all this digital currency help stop that black economy? Well, apparently it will. I haven't got that far into it yet, but apparently it will. So watch this space. I think that's about all we can say. Cheech and Chong is stuffed. Yeah, well, you never know. You might find a few of those lords get relaxed a bit, and Cheech and Chong could be making a fortune. opening up a franchise shop network just between you, me, and the Gatepost. A few more comments. Adam, do as much as possible. Buy through CoinSpot. You'll have a show. I'll keep with it, McGov. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, that's a good tip. Peggy Sue says, kids want to buy an ice block or lollies at the shop. Yeah, absolutely. But the ice block will have a value. It'll be wrapped in a Bitcoin value. 50 cents, $1, $4, $5, whatever it happens to be. And you'll just transfer that out of your wallet when you buy it. That's my understanding of, and it's limited. Do not rely on it, but that's my understanding of how it'll work. It'll be as simple as using your card today. The only difference being that everything is tracked. So, yeah, be aware of that end of it. So, good, bad, or indifferent, that's what it's going to be. But yeah, I can't. For the life of me, can't figure out how they would stop the black trade of, you know, I'll swap you my TV for whatever drug it is you're selling. Although a lot of those drugs are going to be, well, unencumbered. I'm not going to say they're free, but unencumbered. So you shouldn't have too many issues finding them. And if weed is your thing, then I imagine that, you know, you'd be able to grow it yourself and not have any worries. So, yeah, there will certainly be illegal things, but if they are transacted at all using Bitcoin, they are trackable on the blockchain. So how are people going to pay for that? I can't think of that off the top of my head, but once again, smarter people than me are working on this, and they are way ahead of it. XMR, says Bill. Well, there you go. I've heard of XMR, XRP, and XLM, I think it is. So thank you, Bill. There is a new 3-letter thing for me to get to learn what the hell it means. What does the X and the L and the P and the R and all those bits mean? Does it just sound cool, or does somebody who's coming up with these names just love, you know, old Honda motorcycle model names? Just wondering. Trump mentioned things are going to be said therapeutical. Oh, somebody's offering me help. Do I want some help with blockchain crypto? Yes, Vince, but not right now because I'm going to end the show. How about one day next week you come on for a bit of a chat with me, mate? That'd be great. Might be able to organise that Wednesday if you are around. So, and we could pre-record that, Vince, if you wanted to too. I think that'd be easy done. So if you wanted to do that, maybe we can do that tomorrow, Vince, just between you, me, and the Gatepost. Bill, pay into Monero XMR. Oh, you pay with Monero XMR. Okay, right. So now, see, a lot of people have knowledge about this. So before I embarrass myself too much more, I'm going to stop talking about it. And being a Friday night, and I've talked for over an hour, and I'm doing it all alone tonight by design, then I'm going to let you go and do what you got to do, because I am so friggin' hot in this room. You can see me starting to melt. And if I don't go and get a drink something shortly, I think I may faint in front of you. And that might be a bit rude. Sorry, somebody's Lindy and Markle. My friend paid $100 to Spiros for the Victorian case because she lost her job. She can get the vax now. Carl, do I have any proof about this? If you have known about this for 2 weeks, why only tell us now? What are you talking about? I've known about it for 2 weeks. I've known a lot of things for weeks, but if you are referring to anything to do with this Spiros thing, I'm referring to a show that I did with him, the last show that I did with him, and some answers, whether that was a week ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever. Things have to play out. I'm not going to go out and accuse people of things when it's none of my business. I've made representations. Spiros has acted on those representations as far as I'm aware. As far as I'm also aware, nothing illegal has happened anywhere. There was another breaking news story yesterday from the woman who seems to have a set on him at the moment. And I looked at what she had to say about the enduring power of attorney. I think you will find, and it's not for me to fight these battles for Spiros. That's why I have said Spiros can go away and fight his battles, and when they're all figured out, we'll come back and talk about it maybe. But it's not for me to fight his battles or defend him. So that is the simple reason. But I can tell you that if you are banking on anything out of the enduring power of attorney being something you should sink your teeth into, I would caution you that everything that woman said in that video was a hypothesis of what might happen in 6 years. It could happen. It could happen that somebody could sneak in your window and shoot you in the head, or it could happen that you get hit by a bus. A lot of things could happen. You could also win huge, vast sums of money. There is nothing illegal about what the enduring power of attorney goes on with. And my understanding is the people's trusts are now closed. So if there were an enduring or any kind of a power of attorney over the trust, then that would, I think, end with the end of the trust. And the trust has been closed for some time for a variety of other reasons, which we can talk about at another time. Not bad reasons, just simply to protect the people. Because particularly in Victoria, they were jumping steps in the judicial system and going straight to the sheriff. So if you had a fine that they wanted you to pay and you were refusing to and using the trust to make them show that they had jurisdiction, they were sending the sheriff to your door in the first instance and saying, you pay this fine, I'm going to take your car, or I'm going to take your house, or I'm going to walk in here and take whatever the hell I like. We might just take it all, and we might throw you in jail just to prove a point. And so that's why the trust was closed. Now, the trust has been closed for a while. Powers of attorneys are interesting things, and you should always be very careful about who you give them to, but you always limit the scope of things they're doing for. And just looking at that one that she used there as an example, I can tell you that every attorney who is working on anything to do with land on your behalf would need some sort of access like that. So nothing new there. It's starting to look to me like he's being attacked. But once again, not my position to come out and defend him. Spiros has the questions. If there are questions to answer, I'm sure he will answer them. That has certainly been what he's told me. And judging by the actions of you lot who keep emailing me saying, I got my receipt, I got my receipt, I got my receipt, he is doing exactly what he is planning on doing and saying and doing. He explained to me that he was having an admin issue getting through the huge volume of people that wanted to participate. And of course, they're running in every state. So I don't believe he's lodged in any of the other states yet. Part of that process might wait until what happens in Victoria happens, but I doubt it. I think his initial intention was to launch them all on the same day, but I think that became impractical once the volume of people hit the site and wanted to be involved. That became impractical to have every state's affidavit and case ready by that date. But I'm sure, and I know, he is still working on it. So don't worry about that. If you want to get out of it, there is no problem. Email him and he will remove you from it and send you your $100 back. It is that simple. He doesn't, and told me on the phone he is not in the business of ripping people off. He's never been in the business of ripping people off. And he's doing this simply for the people. But even if they didn't want to be part of it, he'd be doing it himself anyway. So that's the latest news that I have on Spiros and whatever's going on there. I'm going to go before I die, folks. It is so bloody hot. Might even be worth going to the beach. Although that's where the sharks are at this time of night now, just looking out the window. So, no, I don't think I'll be going to the beach. I might just go out, get in the car, turn the air conditioning on, and go for a little bit of a drive. Because you know what that'll do? That'll put me out there with the Friday Night dickhead.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!